Hi, my name is Kira.
Hi, my name is Madden.
Hi, my name is Sharon.
And this is Two and a Half Minorities. On our podcast, we will discuss societal and world issues and also just daily problems that we face from the eyes of 3 high schoolers.
3 ethnic high school. Well, 2. And
Okay. Today's topic is racial
preferences.
So firstly, what is a racial preference?
How would you define racial preference?
Honestly, I think it's just when people they like a certain race more than the others, and it's what they prefer to date, you know?
Yeah.
But honestly, I would consider, if I had a racial preference, it would be either, I date within my race or I date outside my race.
Mm-hmm.
When it's specific races, that's when it gets a little interesting.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's subconscious too because of media portrayal, but we'll get into that later, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I would say racial preference. Yeah, like what Sharon said. I would say it's just kind of the gravitation towards certain races, but at a certain point, which we're trying to talk about, it's it comes off as kind of fetishization and kind of racism at times. So we're gonna talk about that. But yeah, I think that's how I would say it. So do you have any personal anecdotes about racial preferences?
Well, I know a lot. For me, when I was younger, since I'm obviously black, I would hear a lot of guys declare I would never date an African girl, or I would never date a dark-skinned black girl, knowing full well that they are just as dark as the people they refuse to date.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How has that affected you, I guess?
Honestly, at first when I was younger, I always because most of the time they would say, "Oh yeah, I would never date a black girl," but since I always knew that obviously I'm African, so I'd be "Oh well, there's obviously a difference between that, so it doesn't matter if they don't date black girls because I'm African, so I'm different, I'm special." But now I obviously realize they mean all of us, all of us. There's no generalizing it. It is what it is, honestly, and it's just sad because it's usually people who are of that race that refuse to date that kind of race, and it's just and I think it's mostly because of the fact that when you're black, you are the farthest from white as possible. So, and there's nothing really you can do about that besides just obviously date people that do like you.
Right.
And then we could also bring up Asian fetishization because not calling anyone out, but some people, it's in recent times there's been a rise of popularity in
a lot of
certain Asian culture and
Yeah.
Asian media,
especially
and
East
that
Asian.
sort of led to a little bit of Asian fetishization. And personal anecdote, just some people saying that, my type is baddie ABGs, or
I need me a 5'2" Asian alt baddie.
They love those ABGs, guys. I definitely.
What is an ABG?
Oh,
Stop.
an ABG.
I think it's definitely because of the rise of K-pop and anime and a lot of stuff that glorifies East Asians specifically. But when it comes to South Asian and West Asians, a lot of people aren't as inclined to date them as they are with East Asians. Because for some people, they really think that all of Asia is just East Asia, South Korea, Japan, and that's it.
Yeah, and definitely a lot of Asian beauty standards, so lighter skin and kind of more childish demeanor and look has definitely transferred to the US and the Western culture. So I see a lot of guys talk about, I would date an Asian girl because they said docile and
and there's also this long running stereotype that Asian women are submissive and
And every time they're perceived or they're shown in Western media, it's always oh yeah, they know karate and
oh my gosh,
oh my god, what is that?
I need me a lily dragon princess,
oh okay, for
and
sure.
it really and a lot of this which we're gonna talk about, a lot of racial fetishization are it all comes from racial stereotypes, really.
Yeah.
So with East Asian media, that's the most prevalent, especially in Western culture. So we see a lot of people thinking that Asians are all karate masters, and it's kind of evolved from that to really kind of I feel like it's transferred from like the kind of like karate dragon like stereotype to like K-pop and so
Boba, ABG.
yeah.
And this goes for like baddie Latina fetishization.
Oh, this is my topic, guys.
Tell us
let me tell you. Oh my gosh, that stuff really makes me mad because it all comes from like this like toxica like kind of stereotype. Your microphone fall. So like it really makes me mad because it's especially with like the copy paste Latina makeup and like the sort of like I guess sort of like spiciness like kind of
Right.
stereotype where like Latina women are like really headstrong.
I mean,
And so like
big booty Latinas.
yes, and like and it's like it really comes from like racial privilege and like colonization. We'll talk about that more. So we can like transition into this. So
but it all like people like you mentioned earlier. It's always East Asians, or when people are like, "Oh, I like Asians," or I like Latinas. They're referring to a very specific type of Latina or Asian. It's not
Right.
just like any Latina or
Oh,
Asian.
yeah.
That's just that just goes to show how they perceive like Latina or Asian women in general.
yeah, that kind of like it's like grouping all these people together and making a generalization about people because Latina, especially for like Latina Hispanic women, guys, Latina
There's such
and
a
Hispanic.
spectrum.
Yeah, there's such a Latina and Hispanic are not a race, not in like the traditional sense as like black or Asian, because Latina can mean Latinas can be black and Latinas can be white and Latinas can be like any sort of race because Latina is like a like Latin America is like a region, not as much so as like a race, because there's Afro Latinas, there's Güeras, there's Rubias. Like
some Latinas don't even speak Spanish.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh.
like what?
Don't call us out like that.
No, I mean like Portuguese speaking.
Yeah,
Latinas,
and like Latina and
like, oh, I need a Latina to like
yes,
Spanish.
and
like,
Latina
talk-
and Hispanic
what?
are two different things because Hispanic talks about Spanish speaking
Just to clarify,
country,
Just to clarify, guys.
and Latina or Latino comes from Latin America. So a Portuguese
The more
person,
you know,
a Brazilian person is a Latina,
but is not Hispanic.
and then a Spanish person is Hispanic but not Latina.
Okay.
Just clarify. Let's move on.
Okay, finally delving deeper into this.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that was a little.
Finally delving into our topic for today. Like, for example, I think the issue with a lot of like racial preferencing is it's one thing to say, oh yeah, I prefer to date within my race or I prefer to date outside, whether it's like from like a personal experience with people that like inside your race, because I know I've had some bad experiences with black men and I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm done. But that's one thing, but it's a whole other thing to be like, oh, I only date like black girls, or I only date Asians, or I only date Hispanic girls.
Only.
Because
Yeah.
that's where it becomes weird, because sometimes it's just like, okay, well, if you had a 10 out of 10 black girl, but just because she was black, you wouldn't date her, that's not a preference. That's just racism.
Right.
Then there's like those like white supremacy incels.
Oh my
That
gosh.
are like white women are the best, and it's like, oh, or like this is suddenly shown in like elegance,
Not elegant. Have y'all seen that girl? Oh my gosh. Elegant, not elegant.
Is close to white.
Right.
Not elegant, closest from white.
And right, like those Eurocentric beauty standards, like I feel like it's kind of like it's so like prevalent, and so like with like black women and stuff, there's such a high expectation for other races to appeal to like the Eurocentric and European like beauty standard. So like we were talking about this earlier, like how black women always have to have like wig done, lashes done, BBL in.
Whoa.
Yeah, and so like it's such like to be attractive as any other race other than white is such like a bigger effort than white. Like the prettiest black woman, the prettiest Asian woman is still not as pretty.
by people's standards.
Yes.
Not, like,
And so not like for real, guys.
And like another like part of that is how like the average white woman, like a 6 out of 10 white, because I saw this video that was like,
yeah. I saw that too. I was thinking that
like
too.
6 out of 10 white women versus a 6 out of 10 black woman, and they will always choose a 6 out of 10 white woman just because like even though she's considered average for being a 6 out of 10, just the
She
fact
already has the Eurocentric features.
yeah, just the fact that she's white puts her at a standard above any other person of color, just because she's white. And even if like a black woman or a person of color is like 10 out of 10, just the fact that there's a white
puts her
woman,
down.
like, and it's just
Yeah.
so ridiculous, actually.
Right, and it's such like a it's such like a higher standard for like like especially for like women of color, but also it translates to just general people of color. Like there's such a higher expectation to look a certain way to appeal to the Eurocentric beauty standard, and then the people who don't are considered like ugly, and it's like it's such a burden to those people to look attractive because it's like they're already at a disadvantage because they look a certain way.
Yeah, they have to always take the step forward. Like, they have to be at a higher level to just be seen. They have to be perfect in every aspect, and in any case that they aren't, they're not even glanced over just because of the fact that there is a white woman available.
Right.
Can we talk about like?
Can we talk the economic and
Like,
political
no,
state of the
like-
world right now?
Yeah.
Oh, like
Yeah.
oh yeah. That's so transitioning into like the sort of like fetishization aspect. The way that like especially like ethnic and like sort of beauty standards have like evolved. So like with like in the 2010s, like how like more black features were more prevalent and like idealized. So like it was kind of this transition from like very Eurocentric like 2000s to like fuller lips and like thicker bodies, and so like it comes to like down to like this like fetishization of like black and POC features. So
It
yeah.
feels like, honestly, there isn't, when it comes to people of color, it's either you're undesirable or you're fetishized. There's no clean in between, honestly, for that, because like it's either you're completely undesirable, like with black women, where people don't want you no matter how much you try to appeal to the male gaze, and then there's the other side with like Latinas and Asian women, where they are so fetishized and people only want them because of the stereotypes that they have engraved in their minds.
Yeah, it really all like it's rooted from stereotypes. Like no matter how much people deny it, like most of like racial preferences, it comes from like the stereotypes. Like, oh, like I need me a spicy Latina baddie. Like it's really weird because it first of all it generalizes Latinas as this sort of like toxica and like spicy Hello Kitty girl like stereotype, and you see it in other like cultures, like, and it also comes stereotypes also affects like people dating those races. So like with black women, the like sort of like ghetto like
Exactly.
Right.
They swear that they're aggressive.
they're aggressive.
They're always looking for a fight, when that's not always true. Like,
Right.
you use those kind of stereotypes against black women or against Latinas, it's just you like giving an excuse why you would not or will date them. That's not a preference. That's just you
Just perpetuating stereotypes
Exactly.
about those people, and like it's so like deeply ingrained, and it's like sort of subconscious for a lot of people,
Yeah.
but it's very like showing in their racial preference.
And like if you have a racial preference, we're not calling you
Yeah.
racist. This is a societal issue, like we said, like we prefaced. It's something that's been portrayed in media, in social media, in TV, basically everywhere. Even if you don't notice it, many people just like subconsciously internalize it, especially the way that people around them talk about other races. It's like most people are not intentionally going out of their way and being like racist.
Yeah, it's very like a subconscious I sort of issue, because like it's not your fault that those stereotypes and stuff are so deep rooted into your nature, but like it still
We have to
comes
unpack
out.
them.
Yeah, it's important to make sure that you have a racial preference for like not for the right reasons, because it's like very apparent for most people, like like what she said with like black women are aggressive, I wouldn't date them because they're so like ghetto and stuff.
Like, that shouldn't stop
Yeah.
you from wanting to pursue black women. That's the thing.
Right, because not all people, it's a generalization of those people.
Because like there are so many different types of characteristics, so many different personality traits that you look for a woman that you can see in every single race. So saying that, oh yeah, I won't date a black woman because they're aggressive. Not all black women are aggressive. Sure, there might be some that are. I'm not saying that all of them are, but even if there's some that do fit that stereotype, do not let that deter like move you away from wanting to be with that kind of person, because you can't use the excuse of like their personality to not want to date a whole group of people, because there are so many different people in that race, in that group. So you can't just generalize them off of one thing you've seen before.
Right.
That's what stereotyping is.
Also, these stereotypes are like damaging to the people in those races those fetishized races that don't fit into the stereotypes, and a
Right.
lot of people in those races tend to try to conform themselves to those stereotypes, which in turn perpetuates the stereotypes.
To fit the gaze.
It's a cycle.
Right, and for like I guess circling back to like the like fetishization of Asian women, how like a lot of Asian women are like feel they have to be like of a lighter skin tone and stuff. A lot of colorism, because colorism and stuff plays a part.
Colorism is everywhere.
Yes, in every culture, it's the closest to, and it all circles back to like that Eurocentric ideal. And like in Western media, like the ideal Asian girl is always of lighter skin tone. I've noticed. So like, so sorry, I didn't mean to cover your
That's why people like shun out like South Asians in India.
Yes,
Right.
and like light skin, like black girls too. Like oh, Zendaya's so pretty. Like yes, and texturism and like featureism too.
And like they'll always use like Zendaya to say like, oh well, I don't hate all black women. I love Zendaya.
Right.
Okay, everyone loves Zendaya.
Like, girl,
everyone loves Zendaya.
If you don't know, featureism is like the preference of a certain type of feature over the other, which is most commonly smaller features, like more Eurocentric features, especially on people of color, women of color. And texturism is
texturism having a preference towards certain like hair textures where like it's closer to being white, like having straight hair, like pin straight hair, like Kara, versus having like 4C hair, like my natural hair, because it's just seen as like closer to whiteness, which is why usually a lot of African people will like relax their hair to get that straight feel, just because they refuse to tackle what is naturally theirs, which isn't their fault, like necessarily, because of the fact that it has been like seen by the world that 4C hair is ugly, it's hard to maintain, it's nappy, it's disgusting, whatever.
Right.
Unruly. That's like associating like POC features or like
with like
like ghetto or like unruly,
and it's very much like
not elegant.
And like another factor of it is very much like with Eurocentrism, it's like kind of treating white as like the standard or as like the most basic form. It's treating like Euro features as like, I guess, sort of like the most like basic sort of level, and that's where the whole problem with like the basic white girl comes from, because it very much comes from like focusing on white standards as the standard, you know?
Being white is the standard itself.
Right, and it's really othering like other like races. So like, I guess, I don't know, try to put like a visualization.
I saw like an anecdote of this. This guy posted one time, or like, white women are so stupid for doing blah blah blah, and it was like something that's seen as like a basic unit that all women tend to do because whiteness is the most basic form of culture. It's seen that way,
right?
And it's seen as feminine, and it's seen as like beautiful, and dainty.
And it's sort of like the masculization of like, especially like women of color, where like traditional like Eurocentric features are the more feminine, the more like lighter skin, like bigger eyes are seen as cuter.
The brain rot.
Yes, and it's like,
oh my goodness, the siren eyes, like the fox eyes trend.
Oh my god!
It's really, like taking this circles to the topic of cultural appropriation,
right?
Where white people take aspects from that are seen in POC culture or just their natural features, and they'll make that a trend and commodify it, but at the same time they're oppressing and discriminating against the actual POC, and they're saying like on the POC it's like ghetto, but on the white people it's trendy.
Right.
And then like they turn it into a trend, and once they turn it into a trend, obviously trends come and go, and as soon as like a black feature or a Hispanic feature, anything like that is seen as not trending anymore, they completely dismiss those kind of people, which is like, why are you turning something that is my livelihood, my life, like who I am, into just a trend for you to use, for you to like wear?
I have
not that
trends are
I have a I can bring up my Ariana Grande example now. Okay, so let me talk to you. the viewer. So, Ariana Grande, no shade, Arianators, please do not come for me.
If you like Ariana Grande, that's fine.
Right.
I like Ariana Grande too. It's okay.
Right,
Just
but
a
this
little.
is just a little thing I've noticed. I would say that like especially like Ariana Grande and like the Kardashians, they've kind of like been, I guess, kind of like
Profit.
the magnum opus of like how like ethnic features have become trendy. So like in the 2000s, like when more Eurocentric features were trendy, it was still Ariana Grande still had like lighter skin and like she still had like her Italian hair, like her curly hair, because that was still sort of trendy.
With
But
the
it
spicy white girl.
yeah, it was the spicy white girl trend. And as like we sort of moved on in the 2010s, when more like black features have become popular, like fuller lips and like thicker bodies and stuff, like more traditional association with black women, that's when she started like tanning her skin, like getting fillers. Not saying that she got fillers, just saying. But
Allegedly.
allegedly. And with the Kardashians came, Kylie lip kits, became popular. And it's sort of like how fetishization has like extended to the greater media, And like now in the 2020s we have Arigato Grande with
Asian,
yeah.
Asian media has become so popular with anime and K-pop, and now she's conforming to that standard now because everyone loves like all that's being shown right now. And now you can see her with like the pale skin,
right,
and like wearing her hair so tight that it's pulling her eyes back, basically, allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
everyone.
And she has the really like. I mean, she's always had sharp eyeliner, but now it's seen like a little longer in a way where it like makes her eyes look like slender, and what you would see is Asian, and it's just like her just conforming to that new beauty standard of like looking East Asian.
Oh my goodness, I all love to my South Asian queens. I'm so because I like people. The most common thing I'll hear when someone says that they won't date a race is I won't date black girls and I won't date South Asian girls.
They get the same treatment. They get the exact same treatment.
And I feel like
because
it's
they have
kind of talked about less,
right.
but I don't know. But it's because like South Asian women, they tend to like grow more hair or stuff, and like there's a stereotype that South Asians smell bad.
Right. Guys,
because of like
their
food or whatever.
Let me talk to you. South Asians do not smell bad. Oh my god, some of these South Asian baddies. Shout out my English. England. I was saying Indians. I started saying Indians and then I transitioned to Bangladesh. So my Indians, all my Bengalis, you smell really good.
Don't let them tell you otherwise. You smell amazing.
That circles back to the clean girl trend.
Oh, I was going to talk about, with the clean girl trend. Back to Ariana Grande. Let me finish this anecdote. Okay, so Ariana Grande, now that with the clean girl trend has become sort of in the rise, like whiteness has become
clean.
To be white is to be cool again. So Ariana Grande is back to her well, not back because she was never blonde, but she's bleached her hair and she has this sort of like clean girl aesthetic. And again, no hate to Ariana, but
it's washing her out.
Right. I was not gonna say
it's
that.
washing her out.
Yeah, it is kind of. But
I'm sorry.
No hate to Ariana. But what's it called? It's just like you can really see like how those trends, and really the problem with sort of like this trendiness of like features is like not that seeing the beauty in POC filters. Oh my god, features.
It's
not
commodifying.
Yeah,
it's profiting off.
Yes,
them.
It's making those features a trend, and as soon as those trends are over, those people are going to become unattractive again.
And dismissed.
Right, and so somebody and really it all comes back to like a bigger issue of beauty standards, like and beauty trends becoming an issue because
this ties back to two of our other topics: the commodification of beauty and trend culture / aesthetic culture.
Yes, we'll dive into those more, but I just want to get with the racial aspect of it. It's like it makes those races like trendy, I guess, and like as soon as those trends are over, those people are going to become unattractive again,
obsolete. Like all parts of them.
And really, that's the issue. That's like my main issue with this sort of like fetishization and like commodification of POC filter features. let's move on.
Yes.
It kind of. Have you guys heard the skin bleaching? We have to talk.
Oh my gosh,
Oh
we were
my
talking about that
God.
earlier.
Okay. When it comes to skin bleaching, Africans are the professionals. They're the professionals. They have so many different products.
Maybe
Like-
not. God. Yes, my queen, my
Like,
African
I'm listening.
queen.
I'm listening.
Give me your mic.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
There's so many different like products for it, and there's like steps to it too. And then like you can see even like after like a week, you can tell the difference. To actually look black is to be dirty to them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
And like the closer you are to white, the more desirable you are seen in Africa. Like that's just it.
Right.
Because like a lot of especially like my
A
mom,
lot of
because-
cultures also like historically believed like, oh, lighter means you're richer or better because you
Yeah.
don't have to go outside and work in
Exactly,
the fields
that's
all
the
and
thing.
get a tan.
and it's deeply rooted in the, not only like slavery
That and also
racism,
slavery,
Oh my gosh.
but also just because like it's constantly perpetuated by the media where looking white, looking fair means you're beautiful.
Also,
Hello.
I want to reference that video. I don't remember what it was. It was like
Okay.
like a social discussion debate thing, and this girl, she was like a light-skinned like Latina or something, and she said like white people they would rather approach her than like her darker skinned family members because she's less of like a threat or whatever.
Talking about colorism in Latin media.
Or it's a colorism.
That's my topic. Okay, so what's it called? What was I? The like Latina stereotype, especially with like the copy paste Latina makeup. I see a problem with that because it's always güeras. It's always rubias.
Mm.
Like
Explain what that is.
a güera
Oh.
is like a white girl. That it's just like slang, I guess, for like white people. That's what we call them. So like it's always and it upholds the standard that like lighter skinned Latina women are the beauty standard because copy paste Latinas are very pretty. I will say that, but
Everyone is very pretty,
yes,
guys.
every race is
beautiful.
bad. But what's it called?
Bad or bad?
Oh,
Bad.
bad.
Bad is good, guys.
Bad is. What is this audience? Hello. Like, okay, so like it really upholds the standard that like lighter skin tones are the beauty standard, and it's sort of this Eurocentrism. Is that I say that right? But another thing I wanted to talk about was like how either racial features like POC filter features POC characteristics are either fetishized or they're completely like undesirable. So like another issue with making POC features a trend is that again, as soon as those trends are over, those people are gonna become ugly. But also because like it's very like pick and choose those sort of features. Like oh, I like fully lips but I don't like darker skin. Oh, like I like thicker bodies but I don't like thinner bodies. Like it's very like it's like you're like no.
And the problem with that is when it comes to being POC, you don't get to choose those like features. You come with the whole package. It's not like you can. I mean, in some cases you can have fuller lips and have like lighter skin, obviously. But most cases, it's you have the full lips, you have the dark skin, you have the very hairy body. Like there's nothing you can really do about that. It's a full package. And like when white people on media like try to pick and choose what they like and what they don't like about black features, it's just degrading to people who have all the features, the whole package.
Right.
Because we're just realistic. We're real people. You can't pick and choose like parts of us that you like and parts you don't like because we are like a collective race. We are real people that you can't just like generalize like that.
I have a question for y'all. How have like these sort of like what we were talking about, these like racial, I guess, sort of fetishization and like the like idealization of like ethnic features, how does that like affect you all?
Honestly, because people are so mesmerized by the idea of like white girls and Asians, like it's so hard to find anyone who actually like wants to be with someone who's black or just not even just black, because a lot of the times it's when they do like black people or black girls, it's usually lighter skin, but as someone who's dark skin, it's so hard to find someone who will actually like me like not just because like, oh yeah, I have a funny personality or whatever, but because of how I like, genuinely how I look.
Right.
And sometimes when people talk about how like, oh yeah, people only get with me for my looks or whatever, I envy that because obviously that's not a good thing. But I would wish people would be shallow enough to
Right.
like me for just my looks,
Right.
rather than just only going for me because I have a funny personality. I wish I could live up to that standard.
Right. What about you?
And
Kyle?
I feel like I'm affected by the other end of that stick, where it's like, and obviously this is not like impacting me in the same way that it has impacted Sharon, but it's like, I'm just gonna circle back to colorism, where especially in Asia, like, okay, a bunch of Asian countries hate each other.
Oh my
They
gosh.
have a lot of beef. But there's this thing between Southeast Asian countries and East Asian countries. And it's also due to a history of like colonization and imperialism. But there's this low key, I'm not saying if you're East Asian, but like superiority complex where it's like, since East Asians tend to be lighter than Southeast Asians and other Asians, like South Asians, like they'll see themselves as superior to Southeast Asians. And some there's this term for some Southeast Asians. It's jungle Asians because okay, we'd say it like because Southeast Asians tend to be like generally more tan than East Asians, and since they just generalize the language and the culture as more unruly or like jungle like, so and that's like dehumanizing. That circles back to like all the way back to slavery times, where like black people were seen as literally less human or less like developed or advanced as white people were,
like
and so that's why they justified like slavery and colonization.
Right, and I feel like a lot of these, that's what I wanted to talk about more, was like the kind of root of these issues. It all kind of circles back to like especially for like the fetishization aspect of it, it all circles back to like for like black women it's like for slavery and stuff, and for Asians it's like especially like World War II. It comes from like it stems from these like stereotypes that have like stood like the test of time, that have just like trickled down. It's just sort of like the stereotypes have like sort of evolved.
Yeah, they're not gone. Like racism is still, people who say that like, oh, racism isn't like an issue today, it presents itself in like underlying ways. It's so deeply ingrained into societal structures that it's gonna be there for a long time. You can't just delete it by like everyone becoming liberal and woke and like left.
Not to say that liberals are the better,
because I think now everyone has obviously identified like, oh yeah, racism's bad.
Oh yeah,
racism's whatever.
bad.
But no one has taken. Like,
nobody's like
really
acknowledge these underlying habits that perpetuate racism.
Right.
Like such as like stereotypes and microaggressions. Like people refuse to like fully acknowledge the fact that yes, this is still happening even today. Even though you like think it's a thing of the past and it's never coming back. No, it's recurring. It's gonna stay happening until we do something to stop it.
Snap.
Right. And so like again, yeah, all of these issues come from these stereotypes, and really that's what the issue with stereotypes are. It's the generalization of a certain group of people, and really how that affects them is like it presents them in a light, especially with like more negative stereotypes, but also positive stereotypes, that like I feel like people who don't appeal to the stereotype are gonna feel like sort of like this like othering.
Right.
Of, like, so like for like we're the stereotype that like Asians are really smart.
Oh.
Like sorry. Like I would say the reason I've seen a lot of people argue that like, oh, that's not like a bad thing because I'm saying that they're smart, like that's a good thing. But the issue is that when an Asian person isn't upheld to that same like they're not considered smart enough even though they are Asian, it kind of like it creates this sort of like uncomfortable feeling that like they're not really Asian enough. Yeah. And like that their Asianness is like not I don't know how to describe what I'm saying. You can Y'all can
I
I know. And it makes them feel like they obviously want to be like seen as part of their community because that's who they are. But when they are like seen as someone who doesn't fit the stereotype or the standard of that community, they feel outed, they feel alienated. Like, oh, these people who I thought like are similar to me, that like we have the same livelihood, aren't really as similar as we thought.
But I think we're good for that aspect, talking about stereotypes. We should I feel like we're talking a lot about the girls. Let's talk about the guys.
Ooh.
Let's talk about the 6-foot dreadhead basketballers.
We should also touch on like Asian men fetishizers with like, oh, I need me a K-pop man. I have to confess that that once I was a young girl and I believed in that too, but I've seen the error of my ways.
I think the problem with it is, especially because like with Asian media, because of anime and because of K-pop, like Japanese and Korean men are seen as desirable because of the fact that no one really knows the true nature of some of these men, some of them, and because of media, they're like seen as like, oh yeah, I want a Korean man, I want a Korean actor, I want a K-pop idol. When really you don't. You don't want them. You want the idea that has been portrayed of them.
Right.
Yes, because if they fit into these stereotypical beauty standards so well, they're probably gonna like impose those on other people.
Mhm.
They're going to have that mindset like, oh, this is beautiful and this is better than others. And now do you want to move on to a different like race?
Okay, the average, the white boy.
Oh my god, I was gonna
Oh
say
my
that.
White boy of the month.
Oh, finally, my people. Okay, so how do y'all feel about White Boys of the Month? I'll start. Okay, so like for me, when I see a White Boy of the Month, no hate to the White Boys of the Month. I think y'all are cute, but it's like it's very much like the most average white man is like still better than the best POC man.
And like every single, we say every
We
month,
see
but,
you,
like,
man.
but sometimes it's like every 2 months or however long TikTok or whatever media decides to like display these men for. Like usually they're just like completely worshipped. Everyone like kisses the ground that they
Scared,
walk
like,
on.
oh, please step on me. Oh,
Oh my
please run over. Oh my goodness.
And the edits, oh my god.
The edits,
oh my
I'm just
god.
I'm thinking of Jacob Elordi.
Oh my god. Jacob Elordi, I love you.
Guys,
Please.
Not too much. I'm a Jacob Elordi. My sister loves Jacob Elordi.
I love him too,
And
but
Jacob-
oh my god.
And not to say that these men are unattractive. These men are very.
They are.
They-
But like it would be like the
they
average
fit.
white boy, and just the
Right.
fact that they're white just puts them at this like pedestal above everyone else.
But talking more about the men, let's move on to a different part of that. The dreadhead, not the nonchalant.
The
6
nonchalant
foot-
6-foot dreadhead.
Nonchalant dreadhead. Stop shaking your dreads. You're distracting the girls. Fuck that. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But anyway, like I feel like a lot of like the fetishization also like extends to men because like
You want a man because of his hairstyle?
right.
I think it's kind of ironic too because like everyone fetishizes and wants a 6-foot dreadhead, but then on the coin flip side of that, no one wants a black woman. It's really
Right.
ironic in that sense because everybody wants a 6-foot dreadhead, but then as soon as you're talking about a fight for a bust down wig black girl, nobody wants her.
Right.
Like what is it about the 6-foot dreadheads? Let's find out.
Let's dive.
Let's find out.
TikTok.
Right.
TikTok normalizes and like it makes a breeding ground for like new trends, like new
Right.
racial
Oh my
trends.
gosh. Trends are not.
I mean, that's just like social media in general.
Right.
They like uphold all the they keep it going. The whole 6-foot
They
dreadhead.
perpetuate.
They
it.
perpetuate
I
it.
like
Like
that word.
Because like every time I think the hype with the 6-foot dreadheads are over, nope, they just come back.
Right.
A
Oh my
new one is employed or something. Like, oh yeah, yeah, that one. Oh yes, and then the ones on Roblox. Oh my god.
But yeah, the
Roblox Reddit?
I guess the way I sort of see it, the way that like this has come into fruition, it like you said, like with TikTok, but also like just greater media. So like going back to like K-pop idols, where everyone was talking about how they wanted like, oh, I need me a K-pop boy. It's just like it's the way it's the way the media has like it's focused on the people like the media very much focuses on the people that like appeal to that like sort of idolization
Okay.
of these ethnic people. And so again, with the people who don't appeal to those stereotypes, who don't appeal to those, I guess, sort of characteristics, they feel othered or they feel discouraged from their race, ethnicity.
Okay. Can we also bring up the fetishization of certain interracial couples?
Another topic with me. I love interracial people.
Our half.
Oh yes.
I mean, like the white boy Asian girl.
Oh, that
my
video.
God. And, like-
oh my gosh.
And like the black guy Asian girl, or like
All stuff with Asian girls. I think they just really like Asian girls.
Right.
That's it. Because never will you see.
one at a time, ladies.
Because never will you see like the fetishization of like an interracial couple where it's like black girl and like anything else. It's always
Right.
Asian girl, whatever. Asian girl this, Asian girl that.
Right.
Like it just goes back to the
Wow,
fetishization.
you just can't catch a break.
Oh my god. It just goes back to how like people truly fetishize both Asian women and Asian men. Just Asian
Right.
people in general are just
Right.
fetishized.
Right.
Enough, please. They're tired.
Please stop.
Please.
Oh, there's enough of me to go around, guys.
ladies.
No, I mean like okay, and this causes some Asian women to fall into that own like white boy Asian girl like stereotype, because then they're like if a bunch of Asian girls like white boys, oh, I'll do it too, since that must mean some white boys like Asian girls. And a lot of Asian girls go through their white boy phase. It's quite scary.
Gosh.
Quite scary.
Yes. I've seen very many victims of the white boy phase, but
White boy apocalypse.
but no,
Leave the white boys alone.
Yes.
Please.
ladies, calm down.
Shut up. No one wants you. I'm sorry.
And okay, this is also because a lot of people will go, like a lot of women of color will go for like white boys, because like especially if they have like kind of racist parents, like it's a lot easier to bring home a white boy than like a South Asian boy.
Right. Oh, another thing I want to talk about was like I was. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm gonna bring that up while I'm talking about this. It's like when people have sort of racial preferences because of like their family, I guess. But it's like I don't really see that as an issue. If it's like I get it if it's
That's his own.
like you want to keep the line going. Like I don't.
Oh yeah,
like
if your parents prefer you to like date within your race, or if you prefer, like that's one thing.
That
like,
makes
whatever.
sense.
Like that makes sense. Like keeping
Right.
the purebred.
Well, okay, that's a little
gosh.
bit,
Wow.
but it's more like there's not so much of a cultural barrier.
Yeah.
Right, and I feel like that's like where a lot of like, especially with like more traditional communities, like conservative communities,
Like South Asians or like
Yeah.
Indians or like Pakistanis, like
they
want to
want to.
date Indians or like Pakistanis.
Yeah.
Or I mean, like Hindus and Muslims.
Yeah, because I feel like, especially in like the States, because we're such like a like diverse country, melting pot, but I feel like it's not really like that big of like a issue, I guess, sort of here, but especially for like a lot of other communities, dating somebody outside of your race, especially
It's
if
really taboo.
yeah, especially if it's like a race that is seen as like unattractive in those other countries. So like in East Asian countries, especially dating like darker skinned people,
South Asians,
but also like
Latinos,
black people,
black people,
like that's sort of like a taboo because it's like sort of like these
and they
communities have, like,
associate them with
yeah.
like being dangerous or like ghetto because
right.
of this is a personal someone I know very well and is very close to me, doesn't generally like darker skinned people because they've had like personal bad experiences with them like growing up, and so then they're like they believe they're dangerous or like ghetto or whatever.
I think even with those experiences, you should still keep like an open mind.
Right.
Because like, yeah, maybe like 2, 3, 4, 5 experiences that might convince you like, oh, all those people are bad. But like at the same time, you might end up finding someone of that race that you resonate with, that you like see as your soulmate, even though you had those bad experiences
Right.
before.
Right.
So parents, keep an open mind and an
Yes.
open heart.
Open your mind, everyone.
Yes.
If they didn't keep an open mind, then I wouldn't be here. So, shout out my interracial couple. Shout out my mixed kids. Love ya guys. But
Oh my goodness. Wait.
oh my
You know-
goodness.
Sorry, this is stretching a little. But you know those like Pinterest boards where it's like, oh, this is my blah and K-pop idols. This is how our babies would look, or like this is my this is how my mixed baby would look. Oh my gosh, the fetishization of like mixed people too,
Oh my god.
while also like
our mixed person.
differentiating them.
Yes, let me talk to y'all about like
It's-
this.
the floor is yours.
Oh, the floor is very much mine. So, I feel like with a lot of like mixed race people, like I guess when people think mixed race, I feel like they think more like black and white. It's usually always white and something, you know, and that kind of upholds, you know, the Eurocentrism of it all. But especially for light skins, a lot of them have
Can we also
like-
talk about later?
Okay,
Sorry for interrupting.
sorry, it's okay. For like light skinned black people, it's like one black parent, one white parent. But like for like a lot of mixed race people, it isn't white and blank. Like for me, it is. It's white and Hispanic, even though Hispanic is not a race. But I'm not gonna get into that. But it's just like it's sort of treating like racially ambiguous people as like sort of like the standard, because they have those sort of like pick and choose features that we're talking about. Like especially for like light skins, like they have like the fuller lips, but they have the lighter skin. They have wavy hair, but not curly hair. It's very much like that mix that is sort of, it's that very much pick and choose sort of attitude that is the reason why mixed people are
Right.
seen as, you know, more appealing, more attractive.
But like usually the problem with that but usually
51-minute mark.
the problem with that is like, since these mixed people with these like black features or like ethnic features with lighter skin are like presented, a lot of the time like people now think that like, oh, well, since they can like have these features, well, I want to have a mixed kid just because my mixed kid will have all the desired features I want while still having lighter skin. Like they'll be the standard that I want, and then they start like to like formulate like how they want their child to look. So like, oh yeah, I'll only date like an Asian girl so I can have these kind of babies, or I'll only date a Hispanic girl, although Hispanic's not a race, so I can have these kind of babies, all this kind of stuff. Like, and it's just like, why are you trying to formulate your own like bloodline? Like, oh my god.
You're speaking of formulating the bloodline. I want to talk about my Hispanics, my Latin people. Let's talk about improving the race. Okay, so in Spanish, it's called mejorar la raza, which means to improve the race. So when like in Hispanic culture, when like a darker skinned person, like, or more like indigenous features, or more like African features, like marries or has a baby with a white person, it's called mejorar la raza, or to improve the race. And that comes from European colonization, from Spanish colonization, because back then they had like this sort of like tier list where like they had this category, so like
That's literally like Nazi.
oh my gosh, yes,
Like,
the first stage of
genocide!
genocide. Oh my gosh. Let me
shout out to Miss Kane.
Shout out Miss Kane. That's our world geo teacher, but or y'all's AP Human teacher. I didn't take AP Human, girl. I was not
Okay.
But what's it called? So mejorar la raza. Oh, what was that accent? So improving the race is like, it's like this thing that came during colonization,
Right.
where it's like this sort of tier list. So they had like güeras, which is like white people, and then they have like
Oh,
like
it's
negras, which
eugenics.
is like darker skin, like morenos, which is my last name, morenos, which are like people with darker skin tone,
How ironic.
and then mestizos, which mestizos are which most people think of when they think of like Hispanic people, which are like a sort of mix of like indigenous and European blood is sort of the thing. So the way, so like this is also prevalent in other communities, but it's especially apparent in Hispanic community. Dating a white person is to like it's sort of like a blessing to these people. These people, that sounded mean, to people, because because they're gonna have like they might have like a white baby, and that's seen as like a deep rooted issue in colorism and like featureism. And so like these white features are idealized. That's why it's called improving the race. So that's a little antidote for white people.
This is
When-
literally eugenics.
When you
guys.
said that to me, I just thought of the phrase "purifying the bloodline." Oh my god! Like to think that people like are so they have so much like deep rooted colorism that they see like marrying a white person as purifying all like that their ancestors have already like put in place is kind of crazy because like obviously like oh yeah like now it's like okay to love yourself and yay whatever happy pride but like to think that I mean back then and probably still now that like people were so disgusted by the thought of being dark that they would go this far is actually crazy.
Right. Right. Oh, and another antidote talking about I learned about this in World Geo. Shout out Miss Kane. So in Australia, the like the indigenous people are called Aboriginals, right? And so they had these sort of like camps and schools and stuff that like they would raise these Aboriginal children because they were more like they were seen as more primitive, which is like a whole another thing. Which
I think we already touched on that.
yeah, but like so they would have these like schools and these like camps where they would like sort of purify them, which meant like giving them like first of all Christianizing them, giving the like and trying to get them to like marry and have babies with more white people because they were trying to breed out the Aboriginal. And that's another thing we have in the States. The what's the word? The like native schools, the I forget what the name is, but it's something schools. They would get Native American children.
Lesson.
They would kidnap Native American children and bring them to these schools to sort of purify them, which meant like giving them a traditionally European sort of education and like raising them in a traditionally European household, which was seen as like which is like improving the Indian is what I think what they called
goodness.
it. So they were trying to save this was the Australian thing, but it was called save the child, breed out like the Aboriginal or something like that. But it very much comes from like how mixed people are like sort of like the ideal. It's very much wanting to breed out those sort of ethnic and unattractive features from those people. Sorry, I went on a little history lesson there, but I just want to talk about
this
that.
is literally eugenics though, like like the Aryan race.
Oh my god.
Like, no, I think of like I'm sorry. But,
I
know. Those. Have you guys ever done like a deep dive on like incel social media where you start getting to like the eye color charts?
Yeah.
Oh
and then they try
my
to
god.
predict what,
The Rwandan
babies.
Genocide thing. Remember that? We talked about in World
Like
Geo?
it's literally analyzing like hyper analyzing features like this like A1 is like the lightest blue eye color and that's like the most pure and like the blonde hair
If I have a
and like
child
the
with
straight
this
nose.
person-
Oh my goodness, the straight nose.
If I have a child
Instead
with
of,
this
like,
person,
the
then
hooked nose.
our child will look like this. Oh my god.
Like it's like
And
oh my
that's
god.
then they idealize like those white looking women so much, like the blonde hair. Oh, what people think is beautiful versus actual beauty.
Boy pretty versus girl pretty.
Oh my god.
Oh
We
my.
should get into that.
And
on
that just
another-
relates back to like the fetishization and like And like, well, pretty is
Yeah.
always.
It's
We can
always
get
white
that on
women.
Another.
We can
That-
get
that-
on
that-
Why
that.
are you like
That can have its
pitting
own
women against each
conversation.
Right.
other?
That can have its
That's
own.
That's a whole different can of worms.
Yeah, a whole different can of worms that we have to unpack in a different episode.
Right.
Because
But-
this episode's already an hour long.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Is there anything else, like any other topics y'all want to bring up before we head out?
I'm good.
I'm
I'm
good.
satisfied.
Let's
First
let's
episode.
just wrap up our thoughts. So, racial preferences: the good, the bad, the ugly.
Okay. The good. It's okay to date in or out your race, or say that you prefer that.
Right.
The bad. Don't say that you won't date a certain race just because of a stereotype. Because stereotypes are bad.
Right.
The ugly.
This is all deep rooted in
Racism,
Eurocentrism, racism, and
colonialism,
fetishization,
texturism, literally everything.
and just what I want people to get out of this episode is that really like analyze why you have a gravitation towards your racial preference. Make sure you're not doing it for like the wrong reasons, because there's no problem with thinking that seeing the beauty in other races, seeing the beauty in your own race, seeing the beauty in other races, but make sure it's not coming from a place of like stereotypes and like racism, because a lot of these issues are deep rooted in a bigger societal issue, I want to say. So, do you have any
Yeah,
final
we're
thoughts?
not. You're not racist if you have a racial preference.
Exactly.
We're just asking you to reflect,
Yes.
and because you really have to question where all of the things that you were taught came from. Because I know this is the way most of us were raised, that thinking that this is normal, but really you have to go back and analyze and find the true root of where all these societal norms came from, and practices and habits, and how your thinking sprouted. Because people are not born with hate. People are taught hate.
Right.
And really just think about like how these like the perception you have of people, like stereotypes, are affecting who you choose to be with.
Right.
It's okay if you want to be with an Asian person. We're not saying, oh yeah, just because they're seen, they're fetishized in media doesn't mean like, oh yeah, you can't date them at all. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just
Right.
think about your intentions when you do go for those kind of people.
Right.
This has been 2.5 Minorities, talking about racial preferences, colorism,
Thank you for
all
watching our first episode.
Thank you.
Bye.
Tune back in for our next episode on We Will Decide the Topic.
Yep.
Undecided.
Our Instagram is, what was it? 2.5 words _ minorities. That has our business email, which you can talk to us about like inquiries about later episodes, or just topics you want us to cover, or just, you know,
Or
Yeah,
just
stop.
ring us up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like,
we're
Like,
always happy.
like, we'll talk.
To have
please
people.
don't send us death
Right.
threats. though.
please don't.
We're just high schoolers.
Yes, please. We're just girls.
We just want to talk about global issues and societal issues and everything. So please.
Yes. So I really hope y'all enjoyed this episode. We'll see y'all in another one. Have a good day.
Bye. This was 2.5 Minorities.
We out.